Well, hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the From Chaos to Peace podcast, where I talk about how clutter is so much more than you think, and we put a spiritual twist on clearing that clutter to get organized. Thank you so much for allowing me back into your ears. Well, hello, my friend. I'm your host, Conny Graf. Welcome to this episode. So, originally I had planned another topic for this week, but last Friday a friend asked me how I was doing, and with everything happening in the world right now, I usually manage okay to quite well. But I admitted to her that the previous week had been quite challenging, and then she inquired what I meant by things had gotten to me and how that manifested in my life and how I managed to overcome it. And because I think a lot of you might also feel anything but peace lately, I wanted to share this short clip of my real and raw answer to her question. And in that clip, when I say he was born to be a disruptor, I'm talking about the current president of the United States in general and his words about Canada in particular. So let's listen to this short clip real quick so you know what I mean. This week was better than last week. Last week I got lured into the news a bit, and I'm usually really good at like shielding myself and everything. But yeah, I guess it found a crack somewhere in my protection bubble and it got to me. Now it's much better again. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to just like what I said to you last week. It never gets eaten as hot as it's cooked. So how I usually can shield myself is I'm like, I'm into astrology. So I look what's going on in the stars, and I listen to. I have this one astrologer. She lives in Switzerland. Is German, and so I just go back and listen to her videos, and it's so funny because she always says he was born to be a disruptor. He was born to provoke. That is his life purpose, and he lives his life purpose. So now you can be agreeing with it or not, but he lives, and so this helps me, right? Like to even though I want to dig deep, which usually it creates more anxiety, you need to step out and look from a higher or further perspective, right? And so then she talked about Elon and how he basically has a similar chart. He's also a disruptor. They are disruptors, and it is the time of change and disruption. So how could it be any other way? So then I'm like, okay. And then she says too, is like, we all are sick and tired of certain systems and certain things, but the only way how we get out of it is by blowing them up. But that is not pretty. We have to kind of stay grounded through the blow up to get to the other side, right? So here you heard my real answer to her, and not rehearsed, no script, no nothing. And so I wanted to share this with you because, as you know, my podcast and my business are both called From Chaos to Peace. But of course, I don't claim to be at peace all the time. As you just have heard, things do affect me. And I used to be a chronic worrier. No, not warrior, worrier. And constantly anxious about anything and everything. And that really still happens to me if I'm not careful, if I'm not intentional. But I am intentionally and consciously on this journey from chaos to peace. And what I've learned is that the only way to achieve peace is to start with ourselves and to be intentional about it, right? Being intentional how we feel and how we shape our immediate environment. There is no peace if we're constantly agitated or consumed by worry. All that does is rob us of our clarity and of our stability or inner groundedness, right? And it doesn't help the world either. It doesn't make the world a more peaceful place. On the contrary, it actually makes the world even crazier, right? Because it creates a lot of anxiety and worry and fear in our immediate environment if we ourselves are not grounded and clear and calm. So the only way we can truly help right now is by cultivating peace within ourselves. And as astrologer Silke Schäfer, who I mentioned in this short clip that I played you earlier, says, we can choose either fear or love, but only love leads to peace. So we need to find peace within us and then carry it outward, kind of creating peace in ourselves, then in our homes, in our families, and in our extended circles, expanding it further and further out from us, radiating it out. That's the only way. Now, of course, I understand what you might be thinking. Well, Conny, that doesn't change anything out there. It doesn't bring more peace or reduce all the pain that is in the world. We can't just ignore what's happening. We need to stay informed. And yes, I agree, to an extent. But getting worked up, worrying, or freaking out doesn't really bring more peace either. On the contrary, again, like I said before, it creates more turmoil, especially within ourselves, in our families, in our homes, in our circles. So the opposite of what we want. It creates the opposite of what we want. So the only way how we can create what we want is by creating it within ourselves first. And so with the new moon this week in Pisces, the theme is surrender, release, and flow. Pisces teaches us to trust the currents rather than fighting them. Pisces energy moves between the worlds and it reminds us that endings and beginnings are one and the same, and it's the last sign of the zodiac. So Pisces is a culmination and an invitation to let go, trust, and allow, to surrender the old so something new can be born. In that light, I believe we need to set new moon intentions focused on peace. And since we don't have the power to create peace out there, our only choice actually is not just a choice, it's a duty, is to cultivate more peace within ourselves and in our homes and our families and our businesses. As I've mentioned before in the podcast, new moon symbolizes new beginnings and are ideal for setting intentions. But setting an intention is more than a simple wish. It's not about wishing and waiting. It's a commitment and a promise to ourselves. It involves clarifying what we truly want, ideally declaring it in writing, but for sure committing to it fully, and preparing for opportunities by doing everything in our power to be ready to, in this case, to create more peace when anxiety, worry, and fear want to take over. When we take intentional actions, we create movement in our life. So the new moon in Pisces centers on surrender, flow, and release. Interestingly, I'm currently reading Resilience from the Heart by Greg Braden. It was written back in 2015, and he mentioned that many people were waiting for things to return to normal. They were waiting even back then. Most of us might think that in 2015, 10 years ago, the world was more normal than it is now. But either way, there is no going back. There's no waiting for the world to return to normal. This is what we have, and we're in a significant time of change, transition, and transformation. You probably feel that yourself. You can see it. Everything changes. Nothing is kind of set in stone or stable anymore. What we called normal is for sure gone. If it ever existed, who knows? So back to the new moon intentions. We need to ask ourselves, how can I soften my resistance to how the world is right now and allow myself to calm down and relax? How can I create space for more compassion towards myself in these crazy times, but also for others? Where is fear clouding my intuition and my mental clarity? And how can I let it drift away, or how can I let it go? What can I surrender to the universe, to God, Creator, whatever your language is, to a higher power, trusting that it will unfold, that everything will unfold as it's meant to? Letting go of worry, anxiety, and fear and resistance isn't as simple as just decluttering some physical items, right? But often people feel they should be able to just release things, just release emotions, just release negative thinking. I hear that a lot when I'm coaching people. They say, I don't understand why I can't just let this go. But in reality, it's all a process, and it's a process that you have to be very intentional about. So instead of pressuring yourself to be less anxious, to let go of the fear of the unknown, or to stop worrying, you could start trying to reframe it as creating space for more trust, for more calm, for more clarity. For example, instead of letting go of fear or pressuring yourself to let go of fear, which hardly ever works, right? You could ask yourself, where can I take one small step forward, even if fear is still present? Just one small step. Or instead of dwelling in worry and anxiety, you can ask yourself, what's one small way I can create a bit more peace and a bit more calm in myself right now? Instead of spiraling in overwhelm and freaking out, we can try asking ourselves, what thought or belief feels so heavy, and how can I soften it? Maybe even just a tiny little bit. Again, letting go is rarely instant, but we can try to shift things a bit. And shifting, in my opinion, is always possible. We can't go from, I feel like shit, to, oh, I'm all happy. I said that to my client the other day too. You can't expect to go from one extreme to the other, but we can always shift a bit. How can we find something that just gets it a little bit better? Now I want to get back to what I talked about last week. Remember, I shared with you the acronym for peace that came to me and that I'm still kind of fine-tuning, right? But peace is an acronym for proactive and purposeful, easeful and empowered, aligned actions, committed and consistent, and which results in an experience of equanimity. So proactive and purposeful is being intentional and take initiative in our daily actions and in how we set up our environment. This involves setting clear goals and intentions, in this case, to create more peace in our thoughts, emotions, and in our life. Easeful and empowered means finding our innate strength to approach this in a way so that we feel empowered. This can be achieved, yes, also by decluttering physical spaces to create a more inviting atmosphere and a more peaceful, calmful atmosphere in our homes or in our offices, right? But it's also through practicing mindfulness and stress reduction techniques. For me, that's, for example, going for a walk in the woods with my dogs. Aligned actions means we ensure our actions reflect our values and priorities. And if we want peace, then our actions have to be peaceful. This includes identifying core values and aligning daily activities with them. And also it involves surrounding ourselves with supportive, like-minded people. Committed and consistent means we need to dedicate some effort, meaning we need to be committed. This involves establishing routines that promote consistency and stability, holding ourselves accountable for being more at peace, right? And that over and over. It's not good enough just once. Every day is a new day. Every day we try to be more at peace. And in the end, that's how we experience equanimity, by doing all this, by cultivating and experiencing more peace, harmony, and eventually we realize this is really an act of self-care and self-love that radiates out to our immediate family and friends, and this is how we create more peace in the world. And now, it's not always possible. We can get caught, just like I got caught, in the worry, the fear, and the negativity. But if we set intentions and follow through with them, we find our way back out of this worry and negativity quicker, and we find ourselves quicker back into a more peaceful state, more grounded, right? If you want to replace peaceful with grounded. And so if you want to learn more details and have more guidance around how to set these new moon intentions, or how I set new moon intentions, and specifically now in this Pisces new moon around how to create more peace in my life and how to follow through on them, I put a link in the show notes for the new moon in Pisces intention setting roadmap. That's a Google Doc that walks you through this process, how I see it. And again, like, intentions is not just wishing. It actually needs our active involvement, right? And so in the guide, I also include how to create a ritual around setting intentions, if that's your jam, how to review them on a regular basis, how to reflect on them, how to follow through, how to tweak them, all that in a structured way. Because we can't just like wish, we have to do as well, right? And also, if you don't want to do this alone, I host a new moon intention setting call next Thursday, February 27 at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And that's where I hope to go through this intention setting process together with some of you, whoever feels interested and feels like joining. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I put the link for that Zoom call also in the show notes. Now, whether or not you plan on getting the guide, or whether you plan on joining me on Thursday or not, I really hope you will intentionally start creating more peace in your life. Because honestly, it's the only way we have to create more peace in the world. And we definitely need more peace in the world. So thank you for joining me today for this a bit different, special episode. Thank you for listening all the way to the end, and for being a follower, supporter, and listener to the podcast. Thank you. Until next week, take good care and be safe and more peaceful.